math and engineering. Machine it, draft it, build it, test it, break it. Every time something new gets built, the entire world advances. Laying in bed at night, it's designing new parts, designing new suspension, designing new wings. All right, more scrap parts for Scrappy. So this box has gone through 13 aircraft builds with me, and I always find stuff in it like that that will be perfect. I might need to change the length, but I've got lots of great ends and old junky wires that will turn into Scrappy's wiring. So I'm gonna pull what I need and get back to work. All right, guys, I gotta pause this video right here because I am so excited to do something I've never done before. On 2 days from the release of this video, Friday, 1 p.m. Central Time, bring all your questions, all your ideas. Join me live on Facebook on Garmin Aviation's page. We are joining Garmin for the Garmin Virtual AirVenture Oshkosh experience. We're gonna show you Scrappy. Not where the videos are today, but we're gonna show you where the plane is today. And we're almost caught up on videos, but I promise you, you're gonna see a little bit more by joining me 2 days from now. We're gonna be talking live in my hangar, in the place I am building every part for Scrappy. We're gonna show you where we're at, everything about it. Bring your questions. We're gonna interact live. I hope you join us. I'm gonna get back to installing the Garmin panel. Hey, what a perfect time to do this video. The Garmin panel install right now. Let's get back to the video. We'll see you soon. Back to work. Hey guys, so I'm gonna talk about something that's super short. Normally I'm building parts and that's what I focus on, but sometimes I get really lucky and I just get to buy something that is a huge benefit for my plane. So this is one of those easiest mods that I think about anybody can do to an aircraft, and that is yank 20 to 30 pounds out of your airplane like that. Saving weight is it. So this is how I'm doing it with Scrappy. I have 780 cubic inches on Scrappy, and it's 10-to-1 compression. And it is so hard to turn that motor over. When I first did it as a race plane, I could get it to turn over with standard aviation batteries at this high altitude, 6,000 feet density altitude, because the cylinders didn't have to squeeze so hard the air, and it was able to still turn that engine over. Then I flew it down to Texas for an air race, and the Texoma 100, and I tried to start the plane, and it almost couldn't start with brand new fully charged batteries. It's 8 cylinders compressing 10-to-1, and it just about didn't start. And in the winter, when it got really cold, I went back down there and it couldn't start my plane. So I switched to lithium, and these are the ones I've been using. And this battery puts out the equivalent of 2 big lead acid batteries that I've run in the past. And it does it at almost 2 more volts higher, which is less damaging to your starter. As soon as you crank on your starter, your voltage drops. That's harder on a motor, on a starter motor, than because your voltage goes down to a much lower voltage. It's better to start high and the voltage to drop to a couple of volts higher is less wear and tear on your starter. So this is better for your starter. And because you have more voltage during that start, your starter can do a better job with less wear on it. So I hope that makes sense. The reason why I want to talk about it, this isn't a pitch on EarthX, even though that's who I use and I love it. It's a pitch on the advancement of battery technology. So I understand lithium. So on Draco, I couldn't find a battery and just buy it. So I made my own lithium batteries. So that thing fired up. Never got close to hot start. It spun it so fast, so clean, so much safer on the starter. I'm gonna go get them installed, get back to work. We got some wiring to do. Let's get this plane going. Back to work. Hi guys, I got a really easy, simple project. I wanna get this battery mounted and let's see if I can do it in an hour or two. To do it, it comes with a little metal tray that I can mount to the firewall, but I'm a little tight on space, so what I want to do is take this and inset it about halfway into my firewall. What's great is I already had a flat plate right here that I want removable so that I can access and get behind here if I ever need to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that flat plate and then make a box that this aluminum tray that holds this can go about halfway into it. That way the weight of the battery is inside halfway. And then when I go over it bumps and I'm out in the backcountry and banging around, I'm not trying to bend a bracket off the firewall. The weight is centered and the weight's going straight down. I'll leave the wires just out enough that they can carry out real easy. And then if I want, I can put a cover over it and a little blast tube of fresh air to keep it cold. It's not necessary, but I may do that. Anyway, I'm gonna knock it out real fast. We'll throw it in. Okay guys, I got the box done. Went really fast. You can see how I've kind of set that where it'll go partway in. What's really neat is this battery can now just tip and drop in like that. Now I can screw this in and out of the front of my firewall. I'll put the fire shield on the back side and let it come all the way out. And then when I screw it, it will pinch that fire shield to the forward fire shield. Anyway, there's the cover. And then what's really cool is there's a little aluminum bracket that goes on here that grabs the top of the battery, and I screw it on and it locks it down. You can see from the side, I left just enough room for my battery cables to go out and carry up. So it's nice and tight. All right, so getting the fire shield backing on my little battery box. And it's just a sticker product you can peel and stick on. It's about an 1/8 inch thick. It's really amazing, and typically you can just stick it on and be good with it. I find that sometimes if there's ever a chance you might get oil or something splashing on it, and over time the little edges or the seams where they overlap will just start to lift, and it drives me nuts. So this really simple high temp foil tape for HVAC works really well to just go around and just tape over any of the seams like you can see right here. And then the oil can't get down underneath those fibers and start to lift an edge. So it's just an extra couple minutes. This stuff weighs almost nothing and it just saves you grief later. So last step, we'll put it in the plane. Final install. All right, so I've got it set up now where the back of the box is foiled and then the firewall fire break tucks under it. So the two are overlapping, and then when I bolt it, it'll pinch them together and seal it off. So I won't need to cover this side of the carbon fiber. I can leave it open. So closer. All right guys, what I gotta do real quick is put oil all the way to the oil cooler. And I wanna do it through the lines because I'm getting ready to do another weight and balance check. I've done a ton of them along the way. I know I'm really close, but when I make the connecting bars to the motor mount, I need to be exactly where I want to be so that I decide how much luggage can be in the back versus the size of the people and where I will sit at a competition weight, whether I'm having to use a lot of elevator or closer to neutral elevator when I'm in some kind of a slow flight stroll approach. So I'm going to balance that out, but to do it, I got to fill the oil cooler. The crappy thing is I'm not using a geared high pressure pump that can pump oil through these lines. I'm just going to gravity feed it. So it's going to take forever, but I'll get it done. It's just going to be slow. Now, fortunately, I've oversized all the lines and I've ran it without a bunch of 90s. So it's a simple, clear path. And I did a float check. And oddly enough, the single cooler with my oversized lines, even though I'm going the long distance and back, has less flow restriction than the original airplane engine had in my race plane, where I had two coolers, smaller size line, and all the 90s that paired them all together. I actually can flow oil easier to the back of this plane and back because of the reduction of all the lines, a single cooler, and bigger lines. So it's gonna flow easier. It's just gonna take a while by hand. On changing the oil, it's going to be really simple. Then when that tail is down, that oil cooler will be low enough that it's not going to be able to drain out. So I'm going to hook up some quick connects. When I change the oil, I'll dump the oil, hook in a quick connect. I have a flush out pump and it'll suck fresh oil push it through the system, back out. When I see clear oil coming back out the system, I unhook them, reconnect the quick connects, and I get a complete flushed out oil cooler with new oil every time I change the oil. It's gonna add 2 or 3 more minutes, but it's no big deal. So let's get this oil in, get a weight and balance done, back to work. Better not go too fast. It's sitting right here. I'm gonna end up dumping it out. This might be a long project. That oil's got a long way to go. Hey guys, I want to give you a quick Scrappy update on just a little teeny tiny part I'm making, but I'm super excited about it. But I'm actually more excited about this new machine I got because it's going to build really cool airplane parts. This machine is a full 5-axis CNC. It has a cutting surface, not just the movement surface. The cutting surface is 12 foot by 6 foot by 4 feet tall. And so that head rotates, pivots, moves around, and it can come down and cut parts like this. I'm partway through a mold for one of our robotic tugs for moving airplanes. That's the cover, but can you imagine the new molds I get to make for all my future airplane builds having this at our shop. So I'm super excited about that new piece of equipment. I'll give you a 2-second spin around tour. Here you go. There's one small section of Best Tugs factory, but come over here. Let me show you something really quick. We didn't get here in time. The laser is already finished, but we just cut this out. We flip it around, pull off the film. So we just laser cut this plastic so that I could backlight this. This is the door for my glove box in the panel of Scrappy. Inside my Garmin panel, I've got a little glove box. So this laser is awesome. The laser actually is produced in a tube at the back that reflects around, hits a little reflector here. You gotta be careful not to put your hand in front of it. It's off right now and I'm still nervous, but this should be down when we're cutting. And if you actually put your hand in the path, that would actually burn you pretty good. So anyway, here's my little backlit part. I'm gonna backlight it in blue. Quick note. Your airplane called. They said they've been really good to you. All your airplanes have been good to you, and they all deserve a brand new Best Tug. So hurry and get one. You guys know the drill. I'm gonna get back to work. Yeah, I got one harness down. It's really simple. It's just got 5 sensors in it, 3 on this end, 2 at this end. I went ahead and labeled them all, and then I also like to set it up. That's why I pushed the plane all the way up to the motor, to make sure that if you were to line this up at the back of the engine, you really would be difficult to plug the wrong one in the wrong sensor because they line up at length. But I went ahead and labeled them all. The labels don't really look that good. I'd rather just have black, but always better to be safe, make sure they get connected right. Some of the plugs are the same because they use the same sensor. When I can, I do a jumper plug that's a different style so you can't plug it in wrong like this one. But anyway, one harness down. I got about 4 more harnesses to go. I like to separate pressure gauges and different engine sensors on one, and then I'll do ignition and timing and all that on another, and then some of the fuel controls will be on another, and then I got 1 more harness for something extra fun. That'll be later, but let's get back to work. Hi guys. All right, so Ron behind the camera is just practicing not breathing to see if he can pull up a non-Darth Vader moment.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
All right, so I'm finally wiring the plane up. You can kind of get a little closer and I'll show you what I got. Pretty much everything just by size, gauge of wire. I know every wire in this whole aircraft, so I'm getting to the fine tuning, the last little few things. Almost everything in the plane is completely wired. Antennas, cables, door actuators, trim, all my temperature probes, my autopilots, my servos. I've got all of it wired, all done. And I'm now working on the firewall forward, which is so awesome because I'm getting close. So I'm just right now putting ends on everything, oil lines, air pressure lines, you know, tying in all my fuel flow, my fuel pressures. I actually have 2 fuel pressures. I won't go into that right now, why I'm going to be monitoring 2 sides instead of 1, but discussion for another part of the build. Got my Earth X in, starter relay, master relay, jump to starter relay. The only thing on this whole plane that will always have power, which actually, if you ever want to know where you can come up and touch the plane, because some people like to touch stuff, I do. There's a button over here, and there'll be the only part of the plane that always has power. This lights up. You come around the other side. Here we go. If you ever want to, I'm wiring this on its own circuit with its own little mini fuse. It's almost immeasurable the power it takes. But this is just so I can check my brake fluid. And I don't want to have to go turn on the master power to do it. Since there is no components in line and it's a simple switch, it will have 0 power draw. So if ever you see Draco on a ramp and I'm not around, you know, come check my... Oh, I said Draco. Scrappy. This is Draco blood. Come see a little bit of Draco blood. This is Draco DNA. A little bit of brake fluid right out of Draco, now in Scrappy. So, you know, you can come play with it all you want. Go like this. Say, I checked Mike's brake fluid, Draco DNA. Anyway, my little actuators are hooked up. My linear actuators for my heat and cold. All my contactor switches are going in. So I know it's a little bit of a mess right now. It won't be. I'm cleaning it up. That was a lot of talking. Anyway, that's it. I'm gonna get back to work. I think I'm done. This is done. A couple of the main plugs are in. The back of the engine's getting buttoned up. Got a few little knick-knack items left to do, but I'm getting close with the engine and the firewall. But coming around over here, I'm not getting close. I have been going for several days straight just on wiring. Look at this. There's that many wires on both sides. But the good news is I'm on the home stretch. It looks like a giant mess, but every single wire is labeled, ran, grounded, tied into all the autopilots, all my relays, my electronic ignition, my heater controls, worm drives, actuators, flap controls, everything is wired to this mess. And now I'm gonna start trimming it up, cleaning it, terminating, and then putting in the panel. Let's get back to work. Hello again. All right, I'm still doing wiring. I'm getting close on the firewall. Working on the engine side right now. So this big mess right here is what I'm working on. I've actually got a lot of it done. So I'm rewiring the entire ignition system. Now, when I first built this as a race motor to go out and race, I wanted to put dual electronic ignition systems on it. And since Lycoming has 2 sets of plugs, top and bottom on each cylinder, and you can't just use an automotive setup, I needed to find an aircraft one, but nobody makes electronic ignition for an 8-cylinder. You can get 4 cylinders and 6 cylinders, a couple different companies. So I had to get creative, and now I'm going back through and redoing it just to clean it up. But essentially, I found Electroair, which I've used before, I'm really happy with. Their 6-cylinder kit absolutely couldn't work. But they had a 4-cylinder kit, and if you had dual electronic ignition, you'd buy 2 of their 4-cylinder kits for a 4-cylinder engine. But when I got into their wiring diagram in their book and I started going through all their specs and calcs, it was a really logical, simple, robust system. And I was able to figure out how to get 4 electronic ignition systems so that I could have enough to run 8 cylinders. It's too complicated to do on a video without boring you to death. Some of you guys that do electronic ignition will figure it out pretty quick. But essentially, I was able to buy 4 4-cylinder kits, rewire a few things, and make it work on correct timing for a longer crank running 8 cylinders. So I'm just going through rewiring it all. I'll get it back in. These sides will go in the aircraft, and I'll make a quick jumper plug coming out here to the airplane. That way if I ever need to pull the engine, it's a quick disconnect. But I'm really excited. It worked for years for me, and I'm just gonna redo it, do it again. 4 4-cylinder kits. Back to work. The oil, you can tell, is just 2050. And if any of you are wondering, while I'm sitting here being bored, this engine has been run on my race plane, so I don't need to break it in with any mineral oil. It has a couple hundred hours on it. It's around 250. I'd have to look at my logbook, but so I can just put this regular oil in. There's no break-in to do. We'll fire it up and rod it around the airport. Play with it in the dirt around the weeds without the wings on it. Anyway, we'll have this thing up and running without wings, testing suspension out in the dirt. It's going to be fun. I'm intentionally standing in front of my Garmin Team-X banner because I finally get to show you my panel assembled. It's not in the plane. I'm getting ready to put it in the plane. So, ta-da! It's my ta-da moment. I'm so excited. So I'm really happy with how I was able to get the oranges to match up, the colors, the raw carbon fiber to raw carbon fiber, my seats. And it looks like I have 4 G3X touches and a 750 touch, but there's one more hiding. I haven't installed it yet. But the back of this seat, this big spot right here, this is the front seat, and this back gets a full 10-inch, this size, for the person in the back. And I wasn't going to, and I don't know many Cubs that do, or if anybody has. I haven't seen one yet. But when I'm flying in the back of the plane with my wife flying, she's an amazing pilot. I'm trying to look around. I want to know what the airspeed is. What's the ground speed? Tap her on the shoulder. Are we there yet?
We get there when we get there.
Like, how far out are we? And I just want to be able to play with it. And so I decided, you know what? Even though I'll be likely the guy flying Scrappy 99% of the time, I wanted someone in the back to have something to fidget with. So the person in the back gets to watch movies, flip to any screen I've got, and check out anything they want, turn on the rear camera, see who's in formation behind us. He can turn on the forward camera, night vision, and see the night vision flare at night to see the ground. So I'm really excited about that. The panel, I got everything in it, so I'll give you a quick mini tour. Everything flows left to right. So to start it, it starts on this end, and you just go across all the way down. When you're at this end and everything's ready, you flip the lever, push the button, there's the guard. And then to shut it down, you just go reverse, shut everything off exactly the opposite direction to shut down the aircraft. So the flow is nice. I got onboard oxygen reader here. There's also an oxygen reader in the back seat. And both of those display onto the respective screens. So we know what the oxygen we're at if we go high, because Scrappy's easily capable of 25,000 feet. So we've got oxygen on board. Right here I've got the quick oxygen plug-in for the oxygen masks, my headsets. All the breakers line up directly above the switches that they correlate to. So if something trips a breaker, it's usually the switch directly below it. I got my G5 backup right here. So I've got a glove box right here. That's the panel. I'm super excited. And the best part of it is I didn't have to do it all myself. So what was really nice, about half of all the planes I've built, I've now done 14 aircraft. About half of them, I have wired them all myself. And then a few of others, I've used a couple different people, and I've now narrowed down to the guy I'm using when I decide I want a little help or I want to get ahead of the project a little bit, and that's David from Avionics Systems. David, thank you so much. You did an outstanding job again. I don't know if you go back in time, we built the mold, the carbon, stayed up late at night, some of those old videos, drafting, drawing, laying out the computer, getting it all done, and then we divided and conquered. It worked great. I wired 100% of the plane, the motor, ignitions, autopilot's 100%, and I'm just finishing terminations that will quick plug to this. And David finished the install and the wiring of all the switches and everything here, and he did an amazing job. So David, thank you so much. Love you, buddy. It's fantastic. Knocked it out of the park. So anyway, the plan now is really exciting, and it better work. This was designed to go through the door. So I made sure that the door and this would work, and I could lift it up as one assembly and drop it in 5 minutes. Won't take 5 minutes to tie in. Then we'll plug all the connectors, and we'll spend hours doing that. But the whole system can come in and out of the airplane. So it's now on to me to finish up my work that I've been doing for days in a row. I'm going to finish terminating all these ends. All the rest is done. So all the terminations throughout the whole aircraft are done. Autopilots and all, right down to my plugs up here. Going out to the wings are done. Same with on the other side. Pitot-static's in. Static ports are in. Oh my gosh, it's a big job. Anyway, I hope you like this crazy madness panel. Thank you, Garmin, for making such an awesome product. I've been putting Garmin in my screens in my planes for a long time, and it's just awesome. So we had an issue where I wanted to run all 5 of these screens to communicate to each other, and they would only go up to 4 as it was. So I guess no one was silly enough to put 5 G3X touches in one aircraft. So Garmin, thank you. Their engineering team, I got on the phone with them and said, I really want the screen in the back of the plane to be able to toggle through all these screens and be tied together. And they wrote a program to allow me to do it. So thank you guys for supporting general aviation and crazy guys like me on custom stuff. So anyway, that's a whole lot of talking. I'm probably procrastinating because I got way more work to do. Not really. You guys know the drill. Let's get back to work. All right, guys, time to put the panel in. We've got the Garmin screens all pulled out. Everything's ready to go. So once this goes in, we've probably got another full day of work left, but we're getting closer. Let's get back to work. All right, let's power it up. Oh my gosh, I'm so happy right now. All right, while everything's booting up, let me show you a couple things. I've got gear lights, footwell lights that light up down here. Now, on the camera, with the style of lights I have, they're probably pulsing on camera, but they actually aren't. I can turn up and down my footwell lights. I'm gonna leave them turned down right there. Over here, I've got halo switches. I can turn up and down the lights on all my backlit switches. I could not be happier right now. And I know a bunch of you are thinking it. This is a little more than is necessary. You're right. I couldn't help it. But I'm also doing some really cool things with suspension and all kinds of other stuff that I'll show you later that's going to use up some of the custom abilities that Garmin has put into their panels that really is going to be fun later. I'm going to go ahead and hit continue on these screens while these finish booting up. And I'm going to spin this page to my engine page. So right now I've got everything turned on. I've got a screen going behind the back seat so that someone in the back can watch it. I've got a glove box right here. This is my little Scrappy back to work glove box. It's got a little magnet on it. So I can fit a cell phone and a bunch of other stuff in there, even a pair of gloves. Anyway, my pens and everything will go down in here. I got my pen holder. Of course, my flashlight holder is all built in with a little pinch so it doesn't rattle. I'm going to show you a little bit more about my gust lock system while we're Also playing with the panels. Gosh, I want to play with this forever. Set up everything. But what we got real quick, let me show you how my gust lock system works. There's 2 pins. One pin locks this stick. This is elevator and aileron. And the other pin locks the rudder. So this pin is my rudder lock pin. It sits outside the aircraft with a little best tugs removed before flight, locks the rudder. It's set up with micro switches, so it comes out of the rudder. And before I put it in the plane, assume this is still in the back of the plane. If I push this start button, nothing happens. If I take this and insert it halfway down this hole, it hits a micro switch. It doesn't even have to be all the way in. Between halfway and the rest of the way down, that micro switch is depressed. And I used it's a bit larger micro switch than you would typically use, but it's an industrial grade made for mass production manufacturing, designed supposedly to go millions of cycles. I don't know if it really would, but I wanted a heavy and duty industrial one that wouldn't be so finicky. So I've got that installed, but in case it failed, some people ask me what would happen if the micro switch failed or if I lost this pin. Well, real quick, let me put the pin back in. Watch what happens. If you can hear this, you'll find out. Of course, the engine won't start because it's not hooked up, but the pin is literally just connecting the ground circuit for the starter solenoid. That's it. Which means if this pin came out in flight, which it can't because you have to press the button, but assume it came out somehow in flight, the engine would not quit. Or if the micro switch failed in flight, the engine will not quit. Nothing will quit. I could pull it in and out all I want. But what could happen is if somehow the engine quit, and at the exact same time the engine failure happened, the micro switch failed on that exact same flight, then how would you start the plane? The ignition's on, everything's going, but the starter would be disconnected. So fortunately, I don't need a starter on Scrappy in flight. Now, this engine in my race plane had little blades designed for high speed. That one, if I wasn't going fast enough, the blades would come to a stop because they were a lightweight composite blade. It didn't have the inertia of a heavy metal blade. And so you had to have a lot of airspeed. If you started to slow down, it would come to a stop, and a restart, you would need the starter button. Scrappy's a bit different. I've got 4 13-inch paddles. It is a lot of torque, and that's gonna just keep that engine spinning all the way down. So I'll still do a flight test to verify that that is the case, but it should have more than enough paddle, even at slow flight to keep that windmilling. But that would be the assumption of the micro switch failed and the engine failed, both on the exact same flight at the same time. So I'm not that worried about it, but that's the backup option is it windmills and it will just restart. So there's one safety feature. The other pin, the gust lock pin, now it's kind of embarrassing. I forgot to put this on, which means I've got to disconnect the wires, which is just going to take a second, and put this on the control stick. This goes right here. And what this does is this allows me to take this secondary gust lock, unlock it, pivot this arm back, and it would be in about this position. Sorry, it's not on, so you have to imagine. And it actually will lock the control stick not all the way forward. It locks the control stick at a neutral position. So this pin would then go into this location right there. I get my fingers out of the way. Right there, attached to this. If this were right here, it would hold the stick neutral. So if my plane is parked, tied down, rather than locking it full aft or full forward in hopes that whichever way the wind's going, one way is great, it keeps the tail down, the other way is not so great, it lifts the tail up. I'm locking my tail in a neutral stance in hopes that if the way I parked into the wind didn't stay that way overnight and it turned around, I'm still in a neutral stance on the elevator. So that's how I'm locking out the control stick. What's nice is when I want to unlock it, push the button, rotate this to the carbon fiber receiver, the aluminum attached to the carbon fiber receiver, take the same pin, and lock it. Now this cannot move back or get in the way. My controls stay free and correct. It can't slide out because you have to press the button. So anyway, there's my gust lock system. Hope that makes a lot of sense. I gotta get this installed. I'll put it away for now. The panel, most of you know all the features of Garmin. They keep coming up with more. I couldn't be more excited. And when I get to spend more time and show you some of the unique custom features that work with my gear system and some of the other custom things I did with Scrappy, you'll see why I'm so excited to have a company that supports general aviation so well that I'm able to call their engineers, do some custom things, integrate it into a panel. All right, guys, I'm trying this new thing at the end of every video to try and answer some questions that came up in past videos. So we're gonna do that right now, tell you a little bit more about the panel while we're at it. So someone asked, what happens if your gust lock pin that goes in the tail of the plane was lost, dropped in the weeds? You could be stranded somewhere, was the concern. It's a great concern, and it's actually something I addressed in the way I was designing it, and it's really simple. On the micro switches, on the back side, I put a pigtail wire. Basically, it's my own hot wire. So the worst case scenario, the micro switch just contacts two grounds together to make it close a circuit. All I've done is taken a wire that has a pigtail that has the male end that matches the female end of the wire that's hooked in the contactor. I pull it off, plug the two together. I've completely bypassed the micro switch without rewiring my plane. It's basically my built-in hot wire system. So if I ever lost this, I would have to unvelcro the boot around my stick, plug two wires together, the start button will work. So thanks for asking. I probably should put it in a video. Let's see, what are the other questions? Oh, is Scrappy gonna be full IFR with this panel? Yeah, it's definitely a full IFR capable aircraft. So full autopilot, fully coupled, connected in every way, yaw damp and all. So Scrappy will fly itself all the way down an approach, hands-free to the runway. I might try something to kind of see how well Scrappy's gear can absorb. I think I can have the autopilot fly the plane slow enough, back off the power, get in all the flaps and the crazy things I'm gonna do with this wing that's coming up, and slow this thing down enough. I may be able to have it fly it and just let it hit the runway. We'll see. I'll baby step into that one, but yes, Scrappy can fly hard IFR all the way to the ground. I am not doing de-ice on the wings prop, but of course I am doing a heated pitot. It's not always done on Cubs. Scrappy certainly will, and it will also have Garmin's angle of attack, which is so cool, having the angle of attack. If you've never played with angle of attack, you should just get a Garmin system so you can do it, because they're awesome. So what other questions did I get? How much more horsepower am I doing? Jeez, more. Later video. I can't think of any other questions right now. So thank you for following. That's the end of this video. I'll try and do more Q&A at the end of every video from the previous videos. Hope you like, come back, follow me along. We'll see you soon. Back to work. Still going. It's gonna be like the Energizer Buddy battery commercial. Still going.